Bulletcast for life.
Welcome everybody to another edition of Under the Radar. My name is Brandon, and this originally was supposed to be just a not-so-instant analysis of NXT Takeover Phoenix, but there is some breaking news, some big news that happened after Raw yesterday, and I'm pretty sure you know what I'm talking about. Pro Wrestling Torch, my boy Wade Keller, reported that Dean Ambrose apparently has given his notice to WWE that he will not be re-signing. His contract allegedly ends at the end of after WrestleMania, and that's interesting. It's pretty obvious to see how he's been booked on Royal Rumble and Raw now. He was just kind of put in the match in Royal Rumble. He was just kind of dumped out unceremoniously by Aleister Black. Honestly, got me a little bit excited, thinking, oh, maybe we could see an Aleister Black-Dean Ambrose match leading up to WrestleMania or at WrestleMania. That could be a lot of fun. Then he goes on Raw, jobs clean as a whistle to Seth Rollins, and then he ends up getting pushed around a little bit by Nia Jax. And I even thought in the moment that, oh, that's not exact. I know that's what Nia Jax did on the Royal Rumble the day before, but that's not the best look for Dean Ambrose, just to kind of get pushed around by Nia Jax. And before Nia Jax even came out, he sat on the chair and he said when he signed with WWE or something, and then he just gets cut off, and that's when Nia Jax music played. So I don't know where they're going with that, if they are going to maybe go back to that in the next coming weeks, if they maybe try to play into this whole contract dispute. It's not even a dispute. It's not, he didn't turn down any, well, he probably did turn down a contract, but it's not, going back and forth. He just said that apparently he is just creatively frustrated, where his character has been going recently. And I've said this on the Bulletcast, I've said this on other platforms, that once Dean Ambrose turned heel, I was hoping we were going to get the old Dean Ambrose back. We were going to get the, Jon Moxley side of him being a heel, the beginning of the Shield, Dean Ambrose, and we just never got that. He said, apparently, a word that was used in the article was that he doesn't like hokey stuff, and it's very clear that, especially when he was a babyface, he was doing hokey stuff. They had the whole angle with the hot dog cart, and he was doing some hokey things as a heel with the shots that he was getting inserted into him during a promo in the doctor's office. He was like burying the crowd because they're all dirty and stinky or whatever. And obviously that just doesn't seem to be what Dean Ambrose wants to do with his career. Dean Ambrose is in the prime of his career, of his life. He is only 33 years old, so that's like the prime wrestling time period, maybe like just at the beginning of the prime, because usually mid to late 30s is when you make the most money. You have the experience, you have the athleticism still, and maybe if you're lucky you can be like AJ Styles and be in your 40s and still be doing AJ Styles type things. But Dean Ambrose leaving WWE to where? We don't know. Obviously AEW is going to be a topic of conversation going forward for every wrestler that has had some contract disputes the last couple weeks that we've been talking about. AEW always seems to come up, and Dean Ambrose, Jon Moxley coming over to AEW, I don't know how his contract would work. No compete clauses to where he would be able to appear on Double or Nothing, because Double or Nothing is in May 25th, so it's the middle of May. Let's say he leaves after WrestleMania, so mid-April. If it's a 30-day non-compete, then he could possibly make that show. But if not, obviously he won't. But maybe we can see him on an episode of Being the Elite or something, because I don't exactly know the legal ramifications if Dean Ambrose were to just randomly appear on a YouTube channel. But it is interesting. It does beg the question: if AEW is not a thing, would Dean Ambrose leave WWE to go back to CZW, or just roam the indie scene and just kind of do maybe what Cody Rhodes was doing beforehand, to where he can just do whatever he wants? And I think this might be looked back on as maybe like the first shot across the bow, you might say, the first wrestler to big wrestler to leave WWE to go over to AEW, because AEW has the money, Dean Ambrose doesn't exactly care about the money all that much, but it does help. And if you have the money, the creative freedom that AEW has compared to what WWE has, because right now maybe WWE has better money, but you don't get the creative control and you don't get as much freedom, and you might not be as happy with your work because Vince McMahon is the almighty, and if whatever he wants you to do is what you have to do. We don't exactly know the power dynamic, what the creative process is going to be in AEW, but what it looks as though right now is they're going to get a whole lot of freedom. It's going to be kind of a group creative process to where they go back and forth, and it's not Cody and the Bucks are the end all be all, or Tony Khan's the end all be all. And we don't know every single wrestler's contracts, but if Dean Ambrose leaves, I mean, who else can we see down the line? I mean, do we see less and less WWE or less and less indie people signing with NXT to go to AEW just because they can have that opportunity and they can be maybe not as big of stars if they were in WWE? We don't know right now because AEW is in its infancy. We don't know a TV, what channel they're on, what kind of distribution plan they're going to have. But as of right now, AEW isn't as big as WWE. It could get as big as WWE. We just don't exactly know yet what all the chips haven't fallen into place, you might say. But with Dean Ambrose leaving WWE, could he be that really big name star that jumps across, gives AEW that legitimacy, and maybe he's not going to, turn everybody who's watching Raw that doesn't know about AEW over to AEW if by fall or late summer that they're on Fox, or not Fox, if they're on TBS or TNT or whatever the rumored channels are. Dean Ambrose is definitely a good first pick. I mean, he was, the first pick of SmackDown back in the day. So this is kind of, if you're just kind of looking outside of the bubble of being the elite crew, Dean Ambrose being Jon Moxley, I think right now he's going to have to come in as a babyface because I think people recognize how underutilized he is. And if he comes out and he's motivated and he goes out to AEW and he just kicks ass, I mean, a Jon Moxley versus, Hangman Page. If Hangman Page is a babyface and they turn Jon Moxley heel somehow, or even like a Jon Moxley versus Pac feud, if Pac does stick around for AEW as kind of being one of the mainstays, that could be a whole lot of fun. Just thinking about all the different possibilities of Jon Moxley outside of WWE, and if AEW is also a thing where he's not just gonna wrestle for AEW. He can go back to his roots and go to CZW. He can go to those Midwest indies that he made his name on, and he can possibly, do some local, you can see Dean Ambrose at your local indie show, which could be a lot of fun. So, interesting news coming out here. Don't know how he's going to be booked going forward. As I said, it was telling. Didn't do a whole lot in the Rumble. Jobbed out clean to Seth Rollins. We have 60-something days until WrestleMania. Is he on that WrestleMania show? If you tell me to put money on it, I would say no, just because I think what they want him to do. Also, if you have Dean Ambrose in that show and there is... if he's against, somebody, if he is a heel and he's going up against, some lower baby face that people may not, Apollo Crews, maybe the crowd won't turn on him, but you run the risk of, if this is like Dean Ambrose's last time in WWE, of the crowd taking over the show and, serenading him with chants and AEW chants and all that good fun stuff. Hopefully this doesn't, affect Renee Young in any type of way. I don't know what her contract status is. I remember maybe a few months ago that there was some words of maybe Renee Young leaving WWE. I don't know what her contract status is, so I don't know if she would jump with Dean Ambrose to... I don't know, because we've seen her kind of do a little bit of acting in the WWE sphere of doing angles and stuff, and she's not the best actress. Her best role is just, even as an announcer, I'm not the biggest fan of her. She's okay. But I think what her best role is being that backstage interviewer, being that analyst, being that, sports-like figure in the wrestling realm. And she's done sports stuff before. She was over in Canada, whatever, the ESP, TSN, I think, is whatever, the equivalent is. She was over there and she was doing stuff. So this doesn't hurt Renee. It can. obviously they can like fire her or bury her, whatever they want, because it's WWE and they're petty like that. Is it going to be like WWE and AJ? Is it going to be like AJ, where she kind of feels awkward? I don't think so. Hopefully, Dean. I don't think Dean. He's a different character, you might say. So he's not like CM Punk, to where he kind of rubs everybody the wrong way. He might rub some people the wrong way, but Dean is just kind of his own guy. He does his own thing, and he's not going to really, get into people's faces and do all that other fun stuff. So Renee, hopefully this doesn't affect her. If it does, she can land on her feet. She can go to, if she does go to AEW, she can do that. But she can also go to an ESPN or a different kind of sports realm, and she can survive that way. So it's going to be an interesting few months going into WrestleMania and after WrestleMania to see where Dean Ambrose lies. I'm not going to be shocked if he just gets jobbed out for the next couple weeks and we don't see him again. But we will have to stay tuned and find out about that. So next up, we have NXT Takeover Phoenix, which took place on Saturday, January 26th, from the Talking Stick Resort Arena. And I did not watch this show live. I was up in Tahoe, and I was able to watch it without no spoilers. I was able to stay off my phone and didn't see anything for 3 hours, because the show ends around 7:30. I didn't watch until, I don't know, 10 or 11 o'clock, and I was able to stay off my phone, didn't see any spoilers. I was very happy about myself. So, first match was the War Raiders going up against the NXT Tag Team Champions Undisputed Era, which is Roderick Strong and Kyle O'Reilly. And this match lasted 16 minutes, 56 seconds, so nearly 17 minutes. I thought this was a very good match. I thought this was the second best match of the show. Very hot start. Great way to kick off NXT. And I thought that since the War Raiders came out with their whole Viking setup and they had the whole fancy ring entrance, that, maybe this is going to be a sign that they're going to lose. I did pick the Undisputed Era to end up winning this match, but I was wrong on that. The War Raiders ended up winning. I thought this was a great match. As I said, the Hanson and Rowe, they were able to do their thing, doing big man, high flying stuff, but having a lot of power. And I think Undisputed Era definitely deserves credit here. They were great. They were great wrestling heels. It was athletic. It was fun. They were bumping around for the big baby faces, but they weren't trying to get themselves over too much. They weren't doing, fancy high flying moves. They weren't trying to be ironic and funny. They were just there to be fodder for the War Raiders, and they played their role perfectly. And at the beginning, Undisputed Era was more over than the War Raiders, but I think as the match progressed, the crowd didn't turn on Undisputed Era. They just were getting behind the War Raiders so much more. And then in the end, when they hit their finishing move for the win, the crowd exploded. It was a great, fantastic match. Really good match. One of the better NXT tag team matches. That's a really high bar. But I really did like this match. One of the better NXT tag team title matches you'll see on a NXT TakeOver. And it does help that it was the first match of the show, so the crowd is super hot. So next up we have, they did show NXT UK champions Pete Dunne and Toni Storm in the crowd. Maybe a little bit of tease that their match or their title matches might be defended at WrestleMania TakeOver. Who knows? But it was kind of a little bit of a fun back and forth between them. Toni Storm was smiling and Pete Dunne was just himself, putting on his boo-boo face. And Toni was trying to get Dunne to smile, and she failed miserably. So then we have Matt Riddle versus Cassius Ohno. My lock of this show was that Matt Riddle was going to win. And he did. Matt Riddle won in 9 minutes and 22 seconds. Cassius Ohno did get a lot of offense. It was nothing compared to it was massively different than their first TakeOver match where Matt Riddle just hit him with a knee and knocked him out in 7 seconds or whatever the official time was. But I think this was a very good match. Ohno got a lot of offense and really had Matt Riddle selling. And I think something that's been underappreciated in this feud is that Matt Riddle kind of came into NXT kind of being his whole laid back bro character, and that can rub people the wrong way if you don't exactly know who Matt Riddle is, or if you don't really don't understand the character. But I think having him go up against Cassius Ohno, kind of having this real serious feud, Matt Riddle can still be, corny and weird, but Cassius Ohno, I think, really was able to get the seriousness out of Matt Riddle, and this feud was very good. Even though Ohno didn't win anything, it was just a straight up 3-0 victory for the babyface. definitely did the job done. Matt Riddle is possibly can be WWE's next big star if they play him right. And with Matt Riddle showing that serious side, he was selling great. He was, working over great. It was a short 10, under 10 minutes, which is what it should have been. It shouldn't have been there for that long, especially with some of these other matches that are going to be show stealers and try to go that epic length match. This match was not here to steal a show. It was there to tell a story. And I thought it told a great story with having Ohno, stomping on Riddle's foot. He even bit his foot at one point, and it just kind of played up the heelness of Cassius Ohno, and Cassius had him on the ropes, and, maybe this is going to be the time that Cassius Ohno finally breaks through, and he gets to Matt Riddle, and maybe Ohno can't get through Matt Riddle, so he's going to cheat, and then that's how he beats him. But no, Matt Riddle was, on his back, and he almost was going to lose, but then he gets him in the bro mission, but then Ohno gets out of it, and then he kind of transitions and he starts, raining down elbows on him, and Ohno taps out wildly. The ref didn't see the tap out at first, but then Ohno falls to the ground and continues to tap, so we get a submission or a TKO. I don't exactly know how you would call that, but I thought the emotion that Matt Riddle was showing in this match was fantastic, definitely taking the next step in his character, and just the moves and everything that was going on. This match was great. I'm not going to say it was as good of a match as a tag team match, but for what it was trying to do and the story that it told, it was fantastic. So next up, we have the NXT North American Championship. Ricochet, the champion, going up against Johnny Gargano, and Johnny Gargano wins in 24 minutes 35 seconds. Oh my goodness, what a match. This match was spectacular. Best match of the show, best match of the weekend. Early candidate for match of the year. I mean, what can you say if you have not seen this match? I know I just spoiled it for you, but go out and watch this match. This was a quintessential Ricochet versus Johnny Gargano match. If this match could have taken place in Evolve, it could have been, wherever. This basically was a Ricochet match. He was flying all over the place. Johnny Gargano was there. He was doing Johnny Gargano things. They were just going back and forth, trading near falls, trading, flippy-doos. They were doing some chain wrestling. They were doing some good mat work and just going back and forth. And, I can't go move by move because there's so much stuff going on here. I'm looking at the play-by-play, and it's like a good 5 to 6 paragraphs of just move after move after move. One of the big proponent of the big storylines of this match is that Johnny Gargano went to go take off the padding of the concrete floor and exposed it, and he went for the DDT. And he didn't end up getting the DDT, but kind of showing that... Did he get... I don't even know what the hell is going on here. It was, 3 days ago, and I can't even remember what the hell happened. But anyways, it's kind of shadowing what Tommaso Ciampa has done back in the day. And, let's see. Gargano, he breaks out the DDT, but Gargano shakes his head and puts Ricochet back in the ring. So he tries to cover, so Ricochet catches him and blah, blah, blah. So Gargano was going to do it, but he ended up not doing it. Right? I think so. I don't know. Watch the match. You'll see if I'm right or wrong. Who even cares? So this match was very long. It didn't feel that long. Something that happens with NXT is that they have so little matches. They had 5 matches in total on this card. So when you have those 25, you can have a few 25-minute matches, and in total it doesn't exhaust the crowd. Going to the Royal Rumble match, that Daniel Bryan AJ Styles match was a 25-minute match or something around that time. That Royal Rumble show was long as fuck. And it was just like the AJ Styles Daniel Bryan match is a good match, but you could have taken out 5 to 8 minutes and it would have been just as good, if not better, of a match, just because the crowd was so exhausted. It was put in an awkward situation going after the Women's Royal Rumble, which I know there's some mixed emotions, but it's a Rumble match. It's going to get the crowd hyped up. There was a lot of, not legends, but there was a lot of new people and a lot of, debuting people in that match. So, especially since the Daniel Bryan AJ match was like the 3rd pay-per-view match they've had in a row. or whatever, second pay-per-view match they've had in a row, but like the third or fourth match they've had in the span of a couple months. I just thought that the time hurt it, and I think NXT does a good job of kind of. I mean, obviously, it has the benefit of having 1 hour shows and just doesn't have as much TV time to fill as WWE, but with these type of NXT takeover matches, they have the room, the breathing room to go these extra long, not epic length matches like New Japan where they're going 30, 40 minutes, but 25 minutes in a WWE match is almost an epic length match. And I thought this was fantastic. And Ricochet, he lost. Shouldn't give any shouldn't poo-poo Ricochet's performance. He was fantastic. Johnny Gargano, I think Johnny Gargano, we all kind of know that they're going somewhere with the Gargano Ciampa feud or pair up, tag team, wherever they're going with it. So that's why I thought Johnny Gargano was going to win. They're going to have Gargano and Ciampa be champions at the end of the night. Doesn't mean they're going to get together. Doesn't mean they're going to attack each other either. We will get into that at the end of the show. So next up we have the women's championship match. Bianca Belair challenging the women's champion Shayna Baszler, and Shayna Baszler ends up winning in 15 minutes and 17 seconds. A great match. I thought the drama in this match was very, very good. Bianca Belair did a nice job of selling. Shayna Baszler had her in the in her sleeper hold, whatever the hell her oh my god, I am just butchering that name. The Kirifuda clutch. There we go. So she had her in the Kirifuda clutch for the first time, and Belair was actually able to stand up and shake her off, and she actually transition to a suplex or something. And I thought the crowd was getting behind Belair. Obviously, we've kind of talked about this on past shows to where it's kind of an awkward situation to where Belair is kind of a heel, but not really, and then Baszler is definitely a straight-up heel. And I think Bianca Belair definitely showed that she is taking that next step. I know, the controversy leading up to this was Sam Roberts said, oh, Shayna or Bianca Belair isn't ready for this. She doesn't deserve this spotlight or whatever. I don't know exactly what goes into those pre-shows, if it's all orchestrated or he's just going into business for himself. I think just it's a sports-like story. She's a young competitor. Yes, she's undefeated, but is she ready to take that next step on a takeover for the women's championship? And I thought they told a nice story. Bianca Belair definitely stood in there, held her ground against Baszler, had some believable near falls, but in the end, Bianca Belair just makes that one mistake. Baszler gets her in the clutch, just makes her pass out, and that's that. It's I would kind of equate it to when Asuka lost her first match. Now that she's lost that first match, if Bianca Belair is going to be a babyface, you can put her in more peril. You can tell, I guess it kind of opens up the booking sheets to where you can have Bianca Belair lose to tell a story down the line to where she ends up winning. Because now, since she's not undefeated, she can lose a tag team match. She can lose. Doesn't mean you're going to pin her all the time. Maybe you shouldn't pin her. Maybe she could still, lay claim that she hasn't been pinned or whatever. But if you just kind of keep her strong, but she can have losses, she can get, disqualified, or she can do some other things. It kind of opens up the book to tell different types of stories. And I don't think this feud is over yet. I think Bianca Belair will bounce back. And is she the one to take the championship off Shayna Baszler? Does Shayna Baszler just retire the belt just because possibly we're going to get the Four Horsewomen match before WrestleMania? No, I think Baszler can do that match and then come back down to NXT. But looking at it right now, who knows who the next... I mean, it's Io Shirai, the next person to possibly take that belt off of Shayna Baszler. It's going to be interesting to see where NXT goes with Baszler. I mean, she's had the title for a long time. She had it before. I feel like she's ready to be the WWE. She is not getting any younger. She's in her mid to late 30s, I think. So she's it's time to kind of get going and kind of put her in that main roster slot to where she can do some things. I mean, I love NXT, but obviously WWE is a business, and the idea of, I know Triple H doesn't want to hear this, but you want your best people to be seen by the most people. So having Shayna Baszler on the main roster, go to maybe just straight up fill in the void of Ronda Rousey and put her on Raw or put her on SmackDown to have against Asuka. Who knows? But overall, I thought this was a great match. Maybe not one of the better, maybe not as good as some of the other women's matches we've seen with Shayna Baszler, but I thought it was a very good match. And then the main event was Aleister Black against Tommaso Ciampa for the NXT Championship. And Tommaso Ciampa wins in 26 minutes and 33 seconds. Really good match. They go back and forth. The story of the match was that Ciampa was working over Black's leg, and that kind of hindered him from doing some of the normal high-flying and strike-based offense that he's able to do. He can't plant to hit the Black mass, and some other things. So definitely the storyline here was, Black's knee being injured. He even was selling it on the Royal Rumble the day after by having it all taped up. I thought it was a really good match. Not as good as the tag team match or the North American title match, but I would say that it might be a little better I think it was better than the women's match. I think just based on the moves that they were doing and some of the stories that they were telling, I think it was better than the women's match. So I would say the Riddle Ohno match was the worst. I guess I'd say it's the worst match, but when it comes to these takeover matches, every match is good. It's just, so hard to distinguish, especially those bottom matches to where they're all good matches, but how can you decide what's third and what's fourth? I mean, to be honest. So Tommaso Ciampa ends up getting the victory. As I said, Tommaso Ciampa actually pulled off the padding of the cement floor, teasing to hit Black with it, but he actually turned around. I think Black hit a suplex on Ciampa. But so, as I said, Ciampa and Gargano kind of be on the same page, doing the same things, and they go back and forth. I mean, we get Black Mass, we get all the different things. We have some kickouts and some finishers, and in the end, Tommaso Ciampa wins by using his fairy tale ending finisher, and I think he believes he hit it twice, back to back, and this match was very good. It could have been cut a little bit. I think they kind of overstayed their welcome just a wee bit, but it still was a good match. I think if you maybe trimmed off 3 minutes or so, it could have maybe been a little bit better, just kind of taking off the dull points, just kind of putting it all together. But that's, nitpicking here. This match was great. And then post-match, Ciampa goes up the ramp, poses with his championship, and Johnny Gargano comes out behind him holding the NXT North American Championship. They glare at each other for a little bit, and then they look away, and they both hold up their championships, and that is how the show ends, with Gargano and Ciampa both being champions in NXT. And that's an interesting storyline going forward. What do they do? What is the storyline reasoning for this? You can read into this a whole bunch of different ways. You can take it the meta level to where they're just real life two friends and they just went out there and they held up their championships and they made it. They are champions. They're in the big time. They are on their way to maybe not WrestleMania, but you know what I'm saying. They're on their way to NXT's WrestleMania. And you can take it for the literal sense, or you can go for the storyline sense of, hey, Gargano and Ciampa looked away at each other and they didn't try to kill each other. Which means does that mean they're friends? Are they just tolerant of each other? Do they still not like each other, but they kind of see each other that can help themselves and they can kind of get ahead and stay champions if they work together? It's going to be this storyline, this friendship, or this alliance, you might say. It's going to be, I think, one of the foundations of NXT going forward, especially for this WrestleMania show. I mean, what is that main event? Who is Tommaso Ciampa facing on WrestleMania weekend? I mean, as we saw after the show, after NXT Takeover went off the air, Velveteen Dream comes out and he kind of talks to Gargano and Ciampa. He kind of going back and forth. Don't exactly know what was said, but then Adam Cole comes out. Black kind of limps up the ramp. Ricochet comes out. They all kind of get back and forth, a little scuffle, and then that sets up the halftime heat match. Don't know exactly what the what this means for NXT going forward. Do they just have the matches? It's just going to be in its own bubble, and they might talk about a little bit of NXT, but then they're not going to really go anywhere forward with that. So as I said, going forward for the NXT Championship, I would say Black is on his way out. I mean, I thought Black, he had a really good showing at the Royal Rumble. As I said, he dumped out Dean Ambrose, thinking that was going to be leading somewhere. But I don't think it will. I mean, maybe you can have Dean Ambrose versus Aleister Black at a WrestleMania. I think that could be a lot of fun. Maybe showing Dean Ambrose's darker side, but then I don't know what exactly to do with Dean Ambrose, but Velveteen Dream is someone who might possibly be wrestling at WrestleMania against John Cena. Maybe he pulls double duty. Maybe he is NXT champion by then if he defeats Tommaso Ciampa. But they just had that match at TakeOver War Games. Do you boost Matt Riddle to have Matt Riddle go up against Johnny Gargano? I don't think Matt Riddle... I'm not saying he's not ready. I think Matt Riddle can be the top guy in NXT, but I think him working his way up and maybe just going to face Johnny Gargano. I mean, whichever way you go Riddle versus Gargano or Riddle versus Ciampa. I think no matter what, it's going to be a fantastic match and a fantastic feud. But saying that, just kind of thinking about the roster off the top of my head, there's not a lot of, top tier baby faces on NXT right now. You have Keith Lee, you have Matt Riddle, but they're not, top guys. But that means that maybe they might get vaulted to the next level. Keith Lee, I don't think he's ready yet. I think Keith Lee versus Johnny Gargano, I don't think that would work just because if Keith Lee is the babyface, he's so much bigger than Gargano that I think the sympathy is going to be on Johnny, and you don't really want that to have the babyface be that much bigger than the heel unless if Gargano just straight up changes his demeanor and his character to just be like a snivelly little brat. Maybe not like a Daniel Bryan type character, but even like a Leo Rush character to where he's just so annoying you just want to see the big guy just destroy him. But, as I said, that's why we watch NXT. That's why we let them do all the heavy lifting, because they're smarter than us. And we're just going to sit back and enjoy the show. So that is it for Under the Radar. As I said, it was just supposed to be an instant analysis of NXT TakeOver, but Dean Ambrose had some other plans. So thank you guys very much for listening. We will have the newest episode of the Bullet Cast coming up in just a few days. I believe we are scheduled for Thursday. So that should be fun. And yeah, so thank you guys very much. Hope you enjoyed Royal Rumble NXT TakeOver. I did win the predictions for NXT TakeOver Phoenix, so I was the 4-time Bullet Cast champion. But once again, I'm the Sasha Banks of the Bullet Cast, and the next day I end up losing it back to Phillip. So I think Phillip is the Charlotte to my Sasha Banks right now. I win, and then I just lose it. I can't defend it. So I'm just racking up. I'm like the Dudley Boys right now. I'm just racking up numbers of championships, even though it doesn't mean anything because I just keep losing them. But I am still undefeated in NXT TakeOver predictions since I've been doing this illustrious Under the Radar podcast. So thank y'all very much for listening. And until next time, goodbye and good night. Bye.